26 year environment experience. On one hand, I was working in quite a big company called Maersk Line, or AP Motor Group, which is one of the biggest shipping line and logistics company in the world. It's a Danish company, so I have been working for that company for almost 19 years, where I spent around 15 years abroad, like in China, Singapore, US, Denmark, India, Africa, and Japan, right? And then after that, I have basically came back to Thailand and then start working with JWD Group, also as a shareholder at the time. And after that, we start to bring the business to the listed company in the stock market of Thailand. So I have been working with JWD Group already for the last 7 to 8 years. Apart from that, I have also have my own family business, doing the chemical trading and distribution for a few number of global brands like BASF, Shell's Chemical, some of the companies like Clariant, and all those things. So we are representing some of the chemical distribution brand in Thailand and also across Southeast Asia as well. So I think one of the good topic that I have been talking to Ajahn Gao is that since we are now in the middle of COVID-19, even though it has already been passed by over the last 1.5 years, but the new wave is possibly upcoming. So it would be good for me to basically share to all the students here what would be the key business transformation that we have over the last 1.5 to 2 years, and how plenty of business has managed themselves in order to go through that kind of cycle and make that business continue to be successful in the future. And of course, JWD Group, we are the logistics company in Thailand, and we are the listed company as well. We are one of the company that has surpassing this type of crisis and manage our business to the way that we can generate a lot of business transformation within our group. So I will take some of the example of JWD as well, but not only limited to JWD Group, because I would like to share a summary of different business, around the industry across Thailand, so that all the students can grab some of the sample of different, business in a different timings. Yeah. So before that, let me give you a bit of the profile of JWD Group in terms of the logistic and supply chain management business that we have been doing in Thailand, including across Southeast Asia countries, so that you know about our business. And I will take it from there so that you can see some of the interrelation experience and impact when we are talking about the logistic business in Thailand as well.
We are living a life filled with logistics. We therefore think like no other. The world of logistics is changing every day. We have to work faster and know everything. We have to be the first who meet all of your specific needs as much as possible. And these are our 4 core businesses. Logistics and supply chain, food supply chain, IT solutions, investment. We specialize in logistics and supply chain services for B2B. Chemicals and dangerous goods management services with attentiveness and comprehensive thinking that puts safety first. Automotive logistics services that meet the stringent standards of the automotive industry. Our food and cold chain services have high standards to maintain quality and freshness. General and free zone warehouse management. Transportation and distribution. Freight forwarding and supply chain management. Document storage and information management. Project cargo logistics. In addition to logistics and supply chain services for B2B, JWD offers ones for B2C clients, including relocation service, of storage, safe deposit, and fine art logistics solutions. E-commerce logistics. Logistics infrastructure to ensure smooth connectivity through multimodal transportation. Today, JWD capitalizes on our insight and expertise to expand into overseas markets with an aim to strengthen a business network that covers ASEAN. Our food supply chain management services take advantage of our worldwide network, working for you throughout the entire supply chain. Information technology solutions for logistics enable the use of technology in business operations and the development of new business models. Investments business. As we live our lives filled with logistics, difficult tasks and challenges are always emerging. Today, with our experience and the journey of thinking like no other, all tasks and challenges can always be handled. We are taking the next step forward to become your most preferred global logistics and supply chain solution provider.
Okay, I think everyone have already seen, this video about the business that we have in JWD. So basically, what we have in our group is that we are a group of the company that operate the logistic and supply chain activity for different customers, different cargo sectors. Our operation was actually located in Thailand, as well as across another 9 countries around Southeast Asia, right? So taking a little step back, over the last 7 years, we used to be a very, I would say, a family business where we operate the logistic company, right? And at that time, the logistic business is in the era where you have a lot of international companies or international competitors in Thailand footprint, right? And it would be very difficult for the local company or for the Thai family company that will be able to compete with the international players. So we take a step from there, right, in order to grow our business. And one of the vehicles that we do is that we do an M&A. So we merge some of the business that we have in Thailand, the Thai companies, the Thai family business, into our group and try to restructure our business into a certain number of structural business in terms of logistics and supply chain. And then we decide to list the company into the stock market so that we'll be able to have the financing tools in order to grow our business further. So that basically in the past, which take around 5 to 6 years. And after that, then we come to the era where every business is facing the COVID-19 situation. And previously, a lot of people ask me whether COVID-19 situation has bring in a lot of business transformation or a lot of technology transformation into our business or into different industry in Thailand or not. The answer is no, because the business transformation, the technology transformation, the digital transformation that a lot of people are talking about was actually there, over the last 4 to 5 years. COVID-19 situation is an accelerator to accelerate those kind of transition, right? Those kind of transformation. So it's already there. It just go faster with the COVID-19 situation. So a lot of companies, a lot of business are talking about business transformation. Some of you might know it in the sense of digital transformation, business transformation, technology transformation, whatever, is all the same, right? And this is why we have to start to learn something good about COVID-19 situation, even though most of you are thinking that everything is quite bad during the COVID-19 situation, right? But there are something that is actually pretty good for the business, because it's enforced every business owner every top management to think about how they're gonna sustain their business in the future, right? If they don't go through the business transformation, what gonna be the risks of the business that they are running, and what would be the end of the business if they don't really transform their organization and their business? So this is something that we are going to talk about today in order to go through certain number of experience, certain number of cases that has been facing this type of business transformation. And many of them are having a big trouble with the situation. Some of them are already bankrupt. Some of them are, facing a lot of challenges today. Many of them are also surpassing the situation and make the company into a good and great company in the future. So we will learn how that kind of thing has happened to different business, right? So let me give you a little bit of the flashback of the COVID-19. If you remember, during the beginning of 2021, that's where we start having a lot of infected cases, over 20,000 cases a day. And this is where the country are, facing the biggest trouble, which is actually around, I think June or July of this year, right after the fourth wave started in February and March, right? And then we start having a few more cases until it's go to 100,000 cases, right? Until it's over 20,000 cases per day. This is the situation that we have. And what's really happened to Thailand economy is that the GDP is going to get worse this year, right? We used to forecast the GDP, somewhere around 3 to 4%. I think this year is not going to be even more than 2% in reality, right? So I think this is going to be some of the outlook of the economy. And when you look at next year, right, I think the situation is not promising, right? Because we could have another outbreak next year with probably the fifth wave in Thailand, right? So it's going to be quite bad for all the business economy that we can have in Thailand again next year. With the situation that we have since the end of 2019 continue into 2020 and 2021, there are quite a number of industry that has been impacted, right? And when people talking about the industry that are mostly impacted by COVID-19, there are a few of them, right? And this is some of the example that I'm going to give to you. The first example is basically automotive industry. I'm recalling our business, one of our sector, because we do a lot of logistic and supply chain management for the automotive industry. So we serve a lot of big car maker brands like Honda, BMW, Isuzu, Nissan, Mazda, Ford, MG at that time, right? So we basically serve all the brands in terms of the car maker in Thailand. So in 2020, right, during the month of April up to June and July, right, it's more or less 3 to 4 months where the car making or the manufacturing factory has to be closed down, completely closed down, right? So there is no car productions, there is no car spare part coming from the overseas, there is no CKD part coming from the overseas. So everything has been completely stopped, right? And at that time, we almost have a motor show, during the first and second quarter of the year, but everything has to be on hold, right? So you will see that the automotive industry get the gigantic hits in 2020, and this is the biggest ever, right? That all the manufacturing, not just only the car maker, but also the part maker has to stop their productions, right? And there are quite a number of serious infected cases happening around different factories. So every single factory have to close down their production one by one, right? And this is one of the great impact, not only to the automaker or the automotive industry itself, but also impacting a lot of relevant industry. For example, the conference or the motor show industry is also, this business has been completely gone over the last 1.5 years, right? The logistic business like JWD Group and many other logistic operators who operate for the automotive industry also having a big impact. For 2 to 3 months, where our revenue is close to zero, meaning that we don't have any car to handle, we don't have any auto part to handle, so we don't have the revenue in that time. So it's impacted all the economy of the automotive industry in Thailand. And of course, not just only in Thailand, because the automotive industry is connected everywhere in the world, right? So every country has got the same problem with the automotive industry. So you will see that the car production has been completely gone, right? The part production in different countries has been completely gone, right? And this also continue until mid of 2021, where many of you may heard about the situation of the lack of the chips that has to be produced or used for the car productions. So you start ordering the car over the last few months, you have to wait at least 5 to 6 months, right? Some of you, for a good brands, you may need to wait for another, 7 to 8 months before you're going to get your new car. So this is the situation that you're actually facing in the automotive industry. The second industry that you probably see, and this is one of the biggest industry in Thailand, is the tourism, right? I think right now for almost more than 1 year, where we do not actually allow the tourists to come into the country, and we also do not allow Thai people to travel abroad as well. So this is the major industry that is contribute significantly to our GDP, and it impact a lot in terms of the ecosystem of the whole economy, right? So it's not just only the traveler that cannot come into the country, but its impact into the tourist agency business, hotel business, hospitality business, restaurants, transportations, right? Everything has been impacted. And one of the greatest impact from the tourists is basically from the Chinese tourists, right? Because Chinese tourists is one of the, the top tourists in the world for Thailand, right? So we have that kind of issues, right? So you see that a lot of shopping mall has been closed because they depends, too much on the Chinese tourists. A lot of luxury brand has to be closed down. Many restaurant, many business that is a tourism related business has to be closed down because there are no tourists at all, right? I used to travel to some of the tourist spots like in Phuket, in Chiang Mai, and also in Koh Samui, right? And then we basically look at the land and property in those kind of cities and provinces, and we also look at some sort of the hotel and hospitality industry, right? So for many people, right, over the last 12 months, right, if they want to buy the hotel business in Phuket, in Chiang Mai, it's a good time because the price is completely cheap, right? You can buy the hotel and then you wait until things gonna, improve, and then you could be able to generate more revenue from the business that has been coming into in a cheaper price. So that is going to be for all the industry. So this is the impact of the tourism that has a significant impact to all the economy in Thailand. And another one that is probably something that you have seen in many, provinces when we have the problem is the food and the retail become a regular victims. So every time where you have the new cases coming up, right, everyone presume that sitting in the restaurant, eating food in the restaurant is a major problem, is a root causes, right? So you will see that the shopping malls, the community malls, the restaurants, everyone has been instructed to close down, right? And then it's going to be a big trouble for everyone because your life has been changed. People are not working in the office anymore. They have to work from home, right? And they have to eat more, drink more, right? And this is going to be basically the whole impact cycle that has been impacted people and country, right? But of course, comparing between these three sectors, automotive, tourism, food and retail, at least what you can see in the food and retail is that there is a few more e-commerce options that is going to be substitutes the offline channels comparing to tourists and also automotive industry, right? So at least I think food and retail has a better option. in terms of the e-commerce and the online distribution channel that will be able to, surpass the situation. Maybe not for everyone, but at least for someone who can adapt and adjust their business model pretty quickly, they'll be able to survive in this situation. So this is the three top industry in Thailand that has been mostly impacted by COVID situation. And it's not only these three industry itself, but it's related to all the relevant industry that has been serving these three main industry that has been greatly impacted by COVID-19 situation. So the good news is, under this COVID-19 situation, you will see that there is quite a number of new industry and megatrend that is coming in. And when we're talking about new industry and megatrend, these are not the new industry or the trends that has been created by COVID-19. It's a trend that we have seen over the past few years, but many people don't believe in this trend. Many people think it's going to take 5 years, 10 years for these trends to be coming into Thailand. Many people don't really think that it's going to be important to their business, right? But COVID-19 has already proved that they can accelerate all these industry and trends, right? And everyone, no matter what industry you are, this kind of industry and mega trend is fully impact into your industry. So let me give you a bit of the sample of the industry. The first one of the mega trend is basically the e-commerce trend, right? So we're talking about everything that can be sales and buy online, right? And then you basically start seeing that the shopping malls, right? Whatever you're gonna buy, whatever you're gonna sell, right? Now you can do e-commerce, right? And believe it or not, e-commerce create an optional career opportunity for many people, right? I know so many people who has been, work from home over the last 1 year, and then once the office or their company asks them to come to work in the office, they start to quit the business. They start to resign from the business because they already have got their own way to do the business. They can do e-commerce. They can basically buy and sell things, at home. They can cook whatever they like, and then they sell their food, their dessert over e-commerce or the online business. So this is something that has been changing the trend of the people. Of course, you can look at people like Shopee.com, Lazada, and whatever online market that are available in Thailand, right? The growth has been significantly since 2020, right? There used to be quite higher growth during 2017 to 2019, but the growth in 2020 is even greater, right? It's more or less like, double of whatever that has been grown over the last 3 years. So this is something that has been proven that the e-commerce business is going into our life, and everyone basically need to adjust, no matter you like it or not, right? You have to adjust and you have to learn how to operate or how to live with e-commerce, with the online sales. Not just only on the normal marketplace of the e-commerce, but this type of trend is also getting into different other industries. For example, today, if you want to buy some like the temperature control food stuff, you can also buy in the e-commerce, because right now the e-commerce is not only for the general products or the normal products. They also be able to do the e-commerce for the food, for the temperature control, for the raw materials. Even today, right? This year in 2021, you can already buy all the insurance online, right? You can buy car online. If you want to buy Great Wall, right? You have to basically book the car online, put the deposit online, right? So everything's become online now, right? So it's hardly see that any industry or any particular business that doesn't have the online channel. So everyone is preparing their online channel, their distribution channels, right? So this is the first mega trend that you have seen. The second one is that people are talking about the data-driven business. So data-driven business is a business that uses data to drive the prediction of the consumer behavior, so that you'll be able to develop your product right to the consumer intention. So you will see a lot of digital marketing, you see a lot of digital cosmetic, right? You will see a lot of digital healthcare, right? So people are talking a lot about data-driven business. One of the example that I put here is actually one of my friend. He is the owner of a company called Bun Nampa. So Bun Nampa previously is a company that provide what they call is a celebration service. So let's say if you want to do basically what people call ขึ้นบ้านใหม่. So you want to do some of the ceremony for your new house, right? In the past, you need to contact the temples, you need to buy the food yourself, you need to prepare all your stuff by yourself, right? So Bun Nampa is a company that provides all this arrangement to the household owner. So you don't need to basically contract everyone yourself. You just contact this company and they are going to arrange everything at your home, including a team of a monk at your home, right? So they are arranging everything. So their business has been greatly impacted by the COVID-19 situation because you won't be able to arrange everything from the temple. You won't be able to get into the house because people don't really welcome you. People are locking down all their house, right? So a lot of people cannot do the new house ceremonies or whatever, right? Based on the religious that they have. So my friends who is the owner of Bun Nampa is trying to triggering the way they do. So what they are trying to do is that they look at their database, right? They look at all the database, which is the household owner, right? And they look at what kind of food that those household owner is always order during the ceremony. So that is going to tell them what kind of favorite food that each of the household owner is doing. And after they get that document, then they change the business model to a central kitchen. So he started operating a central kitchen by having a big central kitchen by himself, having his own chef, and then he cooked the food, and then he connect the food with the delivery service, and then start delivery service to the households during the time that everyone is working from home. So he basically changed the business model from the ceremony service into the central kitchen and food delivery service. So this is how people are transforming their original business to the new wave business by using the data, right? So you will see a lot of this experience or this example in different industry during the time that everyone is facing the COVID-19 situation. The third one is the industry that we call pharmaceutical and healthcare. During the COVID-19 situation, not so many people want to go to the hospital or not so many people want to go to clinics, right? Because it's too dangerous, right? So a lot of people try to avoid going to the hospital. Even you have a normal or general flu, you don't want to go to see the doctor, right? So the hospital has got a big troubles. They are losing money because no patients coming in, right? So they start a new way of doing the digital healthcare or digital pharmaceutical business model. So some of the hospital like the BDMS group, which people know some of their hospital name like Bangkok Hospital, Smithiwet Hospital, Payathai Hospital, they start what people call telemedicine. So what is telemedicine? Telemedicine means that if you have a general symptom, like you have a normal cough or you have a normal flu, instead of going to the hospital, you just basically pick up your phone, give a call to the hospital. There is different charge for different service. For example, if you talk to the nurse in Smithiwet Hospital, right, they will charge you 500 baht, right, per case. If you talk to a doctor, they might charge you 800 baht per case. Or if you talk to a specialist doctor, they might charge you 1,000 to 1,200 baht per case. After all the talking over the phone, then you don't have to wait for the medicine. The hospital is going to send the medicine to your home, right? So this is something that has been changed. And even today, a lot of hospitals, is already posting that service to be one of their main service in terms of the telemedicine. So every hospital develop their own application in the mobile phone so that all the patients, all the consumer will be able to connect to the hospital much easily, right? And they can still serve their patient whenever they have the situation of the, some of the sickness or whatever, right? So that can be connected to the patient and between the patient and hospital. And you will see a lot of those, new and upcoming trend of the telemedicine, the healthcare business, the pharmaceutical from next year onwards. It's going to be very fast. You will see quite a number of hospital is, doing a lot of alliance with different business in order to generate, different model of the hospitality to different city in Thailand. So this will be part of the pharmaceutical healthcare in terms of their business transformation. Apart from that, you will see a lot of robotics and automation, right? When people talking about the robotic and automations, what happened over the last almost 2 years? We don't have manpowers, right? A lot of workers that has been available in Thailand market is not Thai. They are foreigners. They are Burmese, they are Cambodian, Vietnamese, Sri Lankan, they are all foreigners. So during the COVID-19 situation, no one is welcoming all these things, right? So the labor and the worker scarcity become a common problem of every business. No matter how high you're gonna pay for those people, the question is not about the pay. The issue is that you don't have them available for your business, right? So a lot of business start looking at how we can develop the robotic and automation in our business so that we can depend less on the people and depend more on the technology. And that is going to help the business not only on the quick run, but also on the longer term as well. So that many businesses will be able to improve their productivity, their staff efficiency, and also their business efficiency as well. JWD, we are also one of the example in the robotic and automations. We have converted a lot of our warehouse from the manual operation to the robotics and automated operations. So for example, in this picture, what you are seeing is that we have the racking, right? It's a storage racking that used to store the commodity in our warehouse, right? So we do it as a mobile racking. So what you can see here is that there is the motor here. This is the automation system. So all this rack, right? Once you press the button, the rack will be moved back and forth by themselves. So you don't have to have people to drive the forklift and then pick everything by yourself. So it's all picked by the automation and the robotics. So a lot of company in the logistic and supply chain industry implementing a lot of robotic and automation during the COVID-19 situation. The next one that many people really love this is the fintech, right? COVID-19 create a big trouble to the banking and finance industry, right? So you have already seen a lot of banks has been closing down their branches, right? Because no one want to walk into the bank. And today you already have all the mobile apps in your mobile phone. So you basically can do almost 80 to 90% of all the transaction through mobile banking, right? So you don't have to walk into the bank anymore. You can do so many things. You can do so many transactions, and most of them are for free, right? So this is what kind of thing that you can see. Apart from that, it's a big time of the revolution of the Bitcoin, right? So you're talking about digital money, digital cash. Over the last 3 years, digital money and digital cash is something that people are talking about. And it has been accelerated over the last 2 years, right? So many of people who are, praying Bitcoin or praying digital money over the last, 3 to 4 years, they all get rich because the value of the digital money is go up, rocket science. So this is something that has been changing the industry, and it's not only on the perspective of the investment. but it's also on the perspective of consumer behavior as well. So today you can go to the condominium. If you like the condominium, you want to buy a condominium or a house, you can use your Bitcoin, right? You can use your digital money to buy it. If you want to buy a car, some of the brands, you can use digital money to buy it. So digital money or fintechs become more popular, and is going to establish a foundation of the financing and banking industry in the future, right? So there is a lot of banks that has tried to revolutionize their business. For example, like Siam Commercial Bank or SCB, that has announced the biggest revolution of their bank in the history, right? In order to change every core business and let all the business go to digital eras. So this is some parts of fintech and some sort of the financing and investment priorities that has been changing because of the COVID-19. Another thing of the trend is the consumer lifestyle. So since people are spending more time at their house, the shopping mall, the community mall has been closed down, right? But people still want to do shopping, right? So in many other countries, apart from Thailand, for example, in China, in Hong Kong, or in Singapore, the AR and VR shopping is already coming, right? A lot of brands, a lot of shopping malls have already implemented the AR and VR in their shopping malls. So basically, you don't have to. It's basically create a greater experience for the buyer. It's not just only click and buy online, right? But you can visualize the commodity that you want to buy, right? You can touch it, you can see it, and you can move around 360 degrees, 3Ds, right? So everything is become more comfortable, right? And I think this is something that is going to be coming in Thailand as well, right? Unfortunately, we don't have that much in Thailand right now, but our neighboring country like China, Hong Kong, and Singapore is already have this, right? So I'm pretty sure that it's going to be coming, right? Apart from that, there is so many other business that has been coming up. For example, the self-storage business on the top, which is one of JWD new business as well. We basically develop what we call a self-storage business. So self-storage business is basically a space or a room for people who own a house or who own a condominium with a limited space, and they don't have their own space to keep stuff. So they want to keep stuff somewhere else outside their house, and then whenever they need it, then they can give a call or they can come into the space and then take the stuff by themselves. So this is some of the consumer lifestyle logistics service that has been inventing over the last few years. So before we're gonna take a break, let me give you a bit of the JWD Group business, new business and ideas. So if you remember the video that I showed to you, right? We have so many type of logistic and supply chain business. We have logistic infrastructure that is related to the terminal, the port, the shipping lines. We have the B2B business that is related to the warehouse, transportation, distribution, B2B or B2C, right? And then apart from that, we also have the B2C business. But if you look at our business since 1979 to 2019, right? Most of our business is basically touching the B2B industrial growth, right? So meaning that we focus on the B2B or on the corporate customer, almost 90-95% of our total business. But with the mega trend that I just walked you through, right? JWD Group over the last 2 years, we have been launching a lot of new service that is related to the mega trend, that is related to the business transformation. For example, we do what we call a cold chain express. So this is more like an express for the temperature control commodity, right? So it's not like Panda Food, it's not like Grab and all those things, but it's more related to the temperature control food. For example, the food ingredients, where you need a temperature at the frozen, which is the -18 to -25 degrees Celsius, or you need some of the products at the chill temperature, which is around 0 to 10 degrees Celsius. So these are the temperature control express business that we are doing. Apart from that, we also set up a team and a business to do e-commerce logistics. So this e-commerce logistics is basically last mile delivery. So we do a lot of last mile delivery by joint venture with the global company in Thailand, and then basically provide the e-commerce last mile services. We have a business like a self-storage that I told you before. We have a business called Food Story Market. So Food Story Market is a startup business that JWD invests a certain number of our investment stake into this business. So it's an online market for the perishable and food business. So you can go to Food Story Market and then start buying any food ingredient for your kitchen today, and everything is going to be cheap and fast, right? You have some of the business like art space. So art space is a logistic and supply chain business for the art pieces. So you have like a sculpture, you have a photos and artworks and all those things that we have a room to keep, and then we arrange the transportation for everyone that would like to buy and sell the art pieces. We have a business called Y Bank. So Y Bank is a room, you have seen here is a room that we store different bottles of wine, especially for people who are wine collectors or who are doing a lot of wine auction, right? We put all the wines in this storage, and people can come in and tag their own wines, bring to their house, bring to their restaurant, whatever it takes, right? So this is part of the consumer lifestyle logistics that we are doing. ASIS cold storage is the robotics and automation cold storage. So it's a temperature control warehouse that fully implement the robotics, right? Then we have platform integrators, we have order fulfillment and property development, healthcare supply chain. So what I try to highlight in this slide is that JWD as a group, as a logistic operators and supply chain operator in Thailand, we are facing the challenge with the COVID-19 as well. And what we have to do is that we have to change our mindset in the business, not just only the top management of the company, but also every single person in our organization. They need to start changing their mindset. They need to look at what would be the mega trend or the future trend of the business in the future. Then they need to start investing into this sort of change, investing into people, investing into technology, investing into specialists in order to make sure that we can start managing all this new business. So today, all this mega trend become more or less 40% of our business. In the past, it's less than 5%. So now it's become 30 to 40% of our business, and it's become one of the key business and service sector that we're gonna grow in the future as well. And this is going to be quite similar to many other business in a different industry, that people need to start looking for what would be the future trend, what would be the future opportunity for the business, and how they're gonna cultivate the change and the business transformation within the culture of their organization and their people, and make sure that everyone is willing to change the way they work in the past and go to the way the trend and the market going to be in the future. And this is the most challenging things, which is the business transformation, especially when we have to deal with the organization or when we have to deal with the people in our organization. That will be the most crucial factor to drive the new business. So I think I would like to stop here first, because you probably need a quick break, or maybe if you have any questions, we can talk about some of your questions right now if you want.
โอเคค
อา
รั
จาร
บ
ย์แก้วครับ
Okay,ครับ. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is the time for us to have a short break of 10 minutes. Then we will continue our session promptly at the 3:05 p.m. Thank you, ครับ
I think we should come back at 3 p.m. ครับ
โอเคครับ Come back with in 3 p.m. ครับ
ขอบคุณครับครับ
Okay.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of you are enjoying the processing so far. But before we further continue our sessions, I would like to briefly summarize the first session to you. Firstly, Khun Thanet introduced about the JWD, logistic company, about the starting and company. First, about the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, he talked about the COVID pandemic made automotive tourism and food and retail business get in the critical. Then Khun Thanet talked about the new industry and mega trend in the business has to adapt to the situation that business face, like the most Thai local restaurants have sold their food by use the online channels. Lastly, Khun Thanet talked about the new business and idea of JWD Group. Then I would now like to welcome our guest speaker back to continue the sessions.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think for the first sessions, everyone right now knows about what kinds of mega trend that we have available in Thailand, as well as across globally, right? And what kind of business trend that has been moving into different industry as well. So what I would like to tell you a little bit more now is what kind of identifications that you need to do. Let's assume that if you want to do the new business in this era, what kind of new opportunity you should identify, and what kind of factors is going to help you to identify and execute the business into a successful stage, right? So because many people would like to say, like, a lot of my friends, a lot of people that I know, what they feel is that right now in this generation, in this era, right, to have your own business is much easy, right? This is what a lot of people in general think, right? Comparing to, in my generation, right? If you want to do your own business, it's not that easy, right? You need to really understand what you want to do. If you know what you want to do, then you need to understand how you're going to get the funding, right? And over the last 20, 30 years, there is no many choices for your funding. You have to walk to the bank. You need to prepare your guarantee, right? Or you need to have any asset as the collateral backup in order to get the fund from the bank and all those things. So everything become very difficult in the past. But right now, to do the business, to be the business owner, it seems to be very easy, right? But to make your business successful is even more difficult, right? It's even more difficult than in my generation, because the competitions, the market are completely different, right? The market is highly competitive. You have so many competitors. You have so many competitors that has been transformed from different industry. For example, one of the good example that I would like to share to you is that in my logistic industry, over the last 20 years, right, that I has been working, right, we know who is our competitors. We know where our competitor are. We know what they are doing, right? But in this generation, right, our competitor is completely different. We never think that the IT company is our competitors. We never think that the motorcycle gang is our competitors, right? Because if you look at the logistics today, you look at Grab, how many motorcycles that Grab has? No, zero. Grab is an IT solution. It's an application on your mobile phone. And this is my competitors. If I want to do e-commerce, I have to compete with them, right? So you will see that the way to do business today is completely different from in my generations, right? So to establish your own business is not that difficult, but to make your business successful is more challenging than in the past. So this is something that you need to find out what kind of key mechanism that is going to make your business successful. It's not about the passion alone. It's not that because you have a passion to do this, you have a passion to do that, it's going to be successful. It's not about, you want to do this type of startup business, you want to do this type of startup business, and you're going to be successful. No, right? In Thailand, less than 5% of the startup business that has been successful. So that means almost 95% of the startup business are all failed, right? And we need to really understand why they fail rather than why they're successful, right? So this is something that you need to really learn, right? And I would like to share, a few of the key mechanisms that is going to drive your business successful. The first one, you need to really understand the concept of product and service differentiation. Okay, most of the example that I'm taking and I'm talking to you today, most of those examples belongs to JWD as well as my friend, right? So a lot of owner business are basically my friends. So I want to share this because I can share you more, right, into the deeper detail of the inside of their business, right? And because I know them quite well, so I also know their business, and many of them are also my partner as well. So let me try to share you different, concept that is going to make your business successful. As a marketing, right, you need to understand what is the concept of product and service differentiation, meaning that what your product and service are different from others, right? What is the key feature of your service? What is your target market? What you want your customer or your consumer to feel about your product and your service. So that's the product and service differentiation. I'll take two examples in these factors. One is using iDrive, right? And many of you should know this business, right? Even though right now their business has got a big impact from the COVID-19, but they also try to adapt and transform their business into different other area of the business so that they can start growing further. But if you look at the concept of using iDrive, right, and try to ask yourself, what is the product and service differentiation for this service or this, services? In the past, right, if you want to go to party, you want to drink, right, you have to be careful when you want to drive, right? And of course, you only have two choices in the past during that time. So it's either you drive yourself or you call a taxi, right? And if you drive yourself, the danger is that you're gonna get potentially a car accident if you're completely drunk, right? If you call a taxi, right, you have a potential to get robbed, or for some lady, you could potentially get raped, right, if you are fully drunk, right? So this is a danger of the people who want to go for a party and drink a lot, right? So this concept, starting from what are the pain point, or what is the pain point of the consumer? So the pain point of the consumer is that they don't want to drive themselves, but they want to have a taxi service that is focused on a good quality of driver, right, as well as a good condition of the car, right? Of course, some of them, they basically use your own car, right? So they send the driver and drive your own car. So what you actually need is that you need to have a good driver that you can trust, for them to basically drive you home, for them to basically ride you home, right? So these are the pain point of the consumer. So the owner of using iDrive come up with this concept. So they need to put a lot of effort in order to pre-screen and pre-qualify the driver into their business, to make sure that they need to check the crime records with the police. They need to check every single details of the family backgrounds, their work experience with the previous employers, with the previous business, whatever, to ensure that they really know this driver well before they are going to accept this driver into the business. And this is where they can provide a good quality service to the consumer, so that when you start calling them, when you start, asking for their service in your mobile app, you will be ensured that the driver that is going to drive your car and you're going to be in your car, right, will be in a good hands of a good driver, So this is one of the product differentiation model that you need to look at. The second one is that you look at one of the restaurant that sellsก๋วยเตี๋ยวเรือ called Tom Smith, right? If you go to Tom Smith restaurant today, right, probably the cheapest price that you're gonna get for the normal ก๋วยเตี๋ยวเรือ would be around 200 baht, right? If you get a good Wagyu beef, right, or Australian beef, you have to pay 250, 350, 400. Some of the dishes is even as expensive as 500 baht or more, right? So how can he come up with this type of food with this sort of price, right? So again, this is going to reflect what the consumer want as a pain. So the owner of this business basically is the same owner of Kap Khao Kap Pa and Ivory, Nong Pra, right? So what I know from her and what I learned from her is that she want to target the office people who are working in a nice office, who would like to have lunch for themselves, who would like to haveก๋วยเตี๋ยวเรือ as their lunch, but they don't want to walk outside the office. Those people doesn't want to walk outside the office, go into a hot restaurant, right? Having a food and then become sweating and then walking back to the office. So those are the type of people who try to avoid that kind of circumstances. So this restaurant come up with the concept that they are going to open in the community mall, in the shopping mall, in the office area, right? It's going to be fully aircon, right? But they are also trying to select a good quality of the beef, right? A selective quality of the beef, so that they will be able to demand a higher price. And then for the consumer, they also have different levels of consuming lifestyle. They can have a normal one at 200 baht. They can have a good Wagyu at 350 or 400, whatever. There are so many choices for a beef lover who would like to haveก๋วยเตี๋ยวเรือ, right? So this is something that has been differentiated from the pain point of the consumer or from the intention of what the consumer needed, right? So this is how you're going to do the product and service differentiation. So for many of you who would like to have your own business in the future or who have a passion to do this, to do that, this is the first thing you need to try to consider. What is the product and the service differentiation that you can offer in the market? So is your product is very common, is very similar to many other people? You are going to enter a price war. You cannot demand a higher price. You need to have a cheaper price, right? And the price will be cheaper and cheaper all the time, right? So you're not going to get your business making a good profit. So product differentiation, service differentiation will be able to give you a higher revenue, a higher profit. So this is something you need to try to find out in order to make sure that you have got a good business, right? The second factor, after you know what would be the differentiation of your product, is that what would be the market trend? When I'm talking about the market trend, I'm talking about the future. So you need to really understand the future. And why we need to understand the future is because you need to ensure that whatever you're going to start today is going to last long, right? It's not going to end within next year. It's not going to be, nothing within the next few years, right? So whenever you come up with the product and you come up with the service, you need to look at the future trend and ask yourself many times, is your product and service are in the trend or not? If it's not in the trend, you need to be careful, right? If it's not in the trend, that means you need to find what kind of stage is your products. And you need to do the pricing strategy in order to fit that kind of thing. But if it's become a future trend, then that means your product and your service or your business would be able to be sustained in a longer term, right? For example, one of my partner, which is Origin Property. Origin Property is quite similar to Sansili Land and House. So they are the residential property developer. So they develop condominium, they develop the residential housing projects and all those things, right? So what they're looking at is that what would be the future trend of the property, right? If you look at the condominium or the housing projects, right, everyone needs that kind of thing. So it's very common, right? And every time that you launch the condominium or you launch the housing projects, if it's not a luxury brand, right, then you need to compete with the marketing campaign, you need to compete with the marketing promotion, you need to compete with the pricing, while your cost is not that low, right? But what Origin is looking at is that they're looking at the future trend, right? And then they basically try to look at what kind of trend that can fit into their property business. So that's why they identify what they call a wellness residences. So a wellness residences is basically a service that they converted some part of their property, for example, hotel, service apartment, into the wellness center by collaborating with the wellness center or the hospital, right? So right now, when you talk about Origin, there are certain number of projects. For example, the hotel in Chonburi or some of the service apartment in Tongro, right? They already coordinate with Samithivet Hospital. So you can do certain type of telemedicine at the service apartment. You can do a lot of blood checking. You can do some sort of the laboratory, or you want to do a lab test, you can do that as well. So this is a collaboration, right? That people try to look at what is the trend of the market. And Origin feel that the pharmaceutical and the healthcare, right, and the wellness is the trend in the market because people are more concerned about the health. People are more concerned about their wellness, right? Where you probably know that Thailand is getting into the aging society. So not so many young people, but so many old people. So everyone is getting, more concerned about health, about wellness. So that's why they try to look at what kind of new services that they will be able to convert their property and provide such services to the consumer in the future. So this is one of the example of the new trend and market. So coming back to all of you, I think you need to look at how your product, how your initiative, how your business idea is going to survive in the future trend. So this is the second priorities or the second factors that is going to help you to look at how you're going to win the trend in the future. The third factor is the winning factor, right? A lot of people probably today's all the young people like you knows about live commerce, right? And I think one of a very obvious and good example is Pimri Prime, right? You couldn't believe that a ladies who can sell almost everything, and a lot of FC that's actually follow her and buy almost everything that she basically sells. Some people buy like 50,000 baht per month. Some people buy like over 100,000 baht per month, right? So this is a sort of winning factor. And what I want you to understand this case is that if you look at the way she do this business, right? The commodity that she sell is not so much different. It's a normal products, right? It's a normal products like others. But what is very special about this model is it's not about the product. It's about the seller, right? She can identify her strength in her own characters, and she used her characters as a winning factor for the product and the service that she basically does, right? So this is one of a good example that if you have a passion to do something, sometimes you might not be able to create all the new products and services every time, right? Sometimes you have to end up selling some common commodities, common products. But if you can bring in some of your characters, right, and formulate that characters into a special characters that is going to help selling the common products or the common services, it's also going to help. So this is something that you need to be aware that sometimes it's not only the product and service differentiation. Sometimes it's about the characteristic differentiation that you try to come up. right? So for a lot of students like you guys, a lot of people who would like to have your own business, who has a passion to do something, to buy something online, to sell something online, right? You need to really consider this kind of things because it's going to be part of your winning factor in the future. The next one is that if you look at so many examples in the industry today, people are talking about the speed and scale. In the past, people always think that, you know, you got to be big, right? The big fish gonna eat the smaller fish, right? And then in the next era, people say that the faster fish is going to eat the slower fish, right? So in this generation, it's not a choice between big or small and fast or slow. It's a choice that you have to get a right balance. You have to be big, but you have to be fast. Right? This is something that is completely different from over the last 10 to 20 years, right? And a good example of the speed and scale factor is the last mile delivery services. So I'm making you like a comparison between curry and fresh. Fresh is it's what people accepted as the first unicorn startup in Thailand, right? Curry has been #1 in the last mile express market in Thailand over the last 10 years, right? Their business are in Thailand more than 10 years, but people start knowing them for the last 10 years. And they have gained a market share more and more and become bigger than Thai Post, right? Which is the what they call the government business that is doing the express service and the parcel business. So a comparison between Curry, right? Curry has spent more than 10 years in Thailand market in order to become #1 of the last mile delivery services. Fresh take around 3 years during the time that the last mile delivery service become a red ocean market, right? And then they become the second largest, right? And become the first startup unicorn in Thailand, right? So if you look at the speed and scale, right, you will see that Curry come with scale because they take 10 years in order to build that scale. Fresh take a speed, right, in order to build the scale, right? But going forward for these two brands is not the game of either speed and scale, but they need to be scalable and speedy at the same time. So I think for many of you who would like to do a lot of new service or who would have some of the passion that you want to do some sort of the new business in the future, you need to really consider that one because you are in the midst of new generation business where speed alone will not help, scale alone will not help. You need to have two things, right? And these two things need to complement each other so that your business, your new service, your new products will be able to move faster at a good scale. One of the factors that I want to tell you is that if you are too fast but you don't have scale, it means that you can develop your product and the service very fast, but you're going to be a loss-giving business because you don't have a scale to optimize your cost. So you can have a lot of revenue because your business, your product is fast, right? You can gain the market share, you can get the business, your revenue is coming in, but because you don't have a good scale, you're going to continue to be a loss-giving business. And this is what the entrepreneur doesn't want to see, right? So that's why I'm saying that the new generation business, you need to look at both speed and scale at the same time. So you need to be fast in order to gain the market share, in order to capture the revenue in the market. But at the same time, you need to be scalable so that you can get a profitable business in the future. So these are two things in one factor that you need to consider. The next one, which is one of the classic example as well. People are talking, should I become first mover or first follower? There is nothing right and wrong. it depends on your industry, it depends on your products. For example, this example that I'm taking is a central retail. They basically, probably become the first central department store or the first shopping malls that start the omni-channels, right? Not just only in their shopping mall, but also in their outlet in Bang Na as well. So they start implementing the omni-channels during the time that they got hit by the COVID, and it's become that their sales through the omni-channels, especially to the Thai people and the Chinese people in China, become significantly growing, right? And this becomes some sort of the additional business that they become. So the question is, are they successful because they are first mover? So that means everyone should be a first mover, not the first follower. Not really. It's really depend. It's really depend. In some of the business that require new ideas, new initiative, right? You need to be a first mover, because if you can test that market right as a first mover, then you get the first market share, you get a bigger market share, you capture the big chunk of the revenue in the market faster than other people. So for other people who want to follow you, they just get the bonus. They don't get the profit, right? But you need to make sure that the risk of become first mover is well manageable, meaning that you already anticipate what kind of risks and whether you have a precaution method to manage your risks or not. So to become a first mover, you need to think about the risks. To become a first follower, you don't need to think that much about the risks, because the first mover is already take most of the risks, right? But to become the first follower, it should be in certain number of sector or in certain number of industry where your products, your initiative has been changing from time to time, right? So you don't have to stick with one model. You don't need to stick with the original model, whatever. So you take the lesson learned from the first mover, right? And then you adjust your product and service to be much better than the first mover. And that's where you start gaining more market share and revenue. So that's why I'm saying that there is no right and wrong, right? It depends on what kind of industry you are, what kind of sector, what kind of products, what are the nature of the product, what are the nature of the services, right? So you need to identify which one is the most suitable for your product and service, whether it's first mover or first follower, right? One of the example for JWD as well, we always put one of our organizational culture as the first mover, right? Because we would like to focus in the highly sophisticated and complex sector. For example, we do logistics and supply chain for automotive. We do for the food and temperature control business. We do logistics for chemical business. So all these industries are highly complex. They need a lot of investment in terms of the foundation of the logistics. They need a lot of investment in terms of the technology and IT. So we basically treat ourselves as a first mover strategy for those sectors. But in some other sector that is not highly complicated, like for example, food and beverage, FMCGs, consumer products, those are the segment that we took a first follower. So we look at someone who can move in first, and then they take some pains, they have some risks, and then we learn the way we do, and then we adjust the way we're going to penetrate into the market in order to have a better service and the better products to the market. So in one company, you can have both strategies depending on where are the focus of your products, where are the focus of your service. And every single focus have a different strategies. So that can be applicable. So this is one of the example that you should try to look at when you want to start your new product or your new service. Another one, for a lot of business in this new generation, people are talking about funding sources. Like what I mentioned to you all before, in my generation, last 20, 30 years, if you want to do business, we go to the bank, we have to put our property, the land, the building, whatever, and then we get the loan. And that are the mostly common funding sources that we have at that time, right? And after that, then you start having different other options. Like you go as a listed company into the stock market, and you can start getting a lot more variety of funding sources, right? You can basically increase the equity capital into your business by listing the company in the stock market. You can issue a convertible bond to the investor. You can go to the bank and get a loan at a cheaper cost of capitals, right? You can go to different association in order to get the support based on certain number of your industry. So you have varieties of your funding sources right now. But in the future, it's going to be even more and more important for the new business. Because in the past, if you want to get a business or if you want to get a loan from the bank, right, you have to be big enough, right? Or at least you need to have an asset to be your collateral to the bank. So it's either you have to be big or you need to have some asset. And the problem is that the SME business or the startup business don't have both. You're not big enough and you don't have asset. So when you go to the bank will say no. There's nothing for collaterals. The startup idea cannot be treated as the asset. Right? So it's difficult for you to get the bank loan, or it's difficult for you to raise fund from other investor because you're just selling them the idea and then they raise fund. Right? So it's not that easy. So right now, they start having a lot of alternatives for the funding sources, right? So for example, what you're seeing in my screen here, right, is basically more like what people call is a crowdfunding, okay? Crowdfunding is a common funding from everyone who want to invest into your business. So a lot of startup business now or currently are using this source of crowdfunding. Okay, for example, I will give you some of the example of the crowdfunding that I used to invest by myself. There is one of the company in the US, right? They invent into one of the startup business that is going to produce a luggage that can be moved automatically. So meaning that you don't need to hold the hands of your luggage. If you want to travel, because over the last, let's say at that time, it's around 5 to 6 years that I invest into this new startup business in the US. I like travels, right? But I have to carry with a lot of big luggage and I have to carry hand all the time, right? So this coming up with the painkiller that they invent to build a luggage where it can be digitally moved, right? When you move. So this is a new idea, a new concept, a new technology, right? It's a US company, it's a US startup. And then this company put a public crowdfunding into a website for anyone who want to invest in this business. If you invest in this business into a certain degree or at a certain percentage, once they have got their product live, they're going to ship the product for you. So you're going to be the first one who can test that brand new products with the automatically movable luggage, right? So I invest certain number of dollars into this business, right, and become their shareholders. And after that, around 1.5 years, then the product has been finally launched, and then I get that kind of product, right? They basically ship to me from the US. So these are the sort of the crowdfunding that has been started in the Western world. So in the US, in Europe, it's already there. And the crowdfunding is right now already in Thailand market, at least for the last 2 years, where you have certain number of new startup business who want to raise fund, but they cannot go to have a loan from the bank. They are not sizable enough to list into the stock market. So there are limited sources of fund that they can go to. So they open, some of the website that they can basically put their business in and asking for general investor or the mass investor to start investing into this business. And they can guarantee certain number of return and yield, right? For example, some of the business that give you the yield between 7 to 12%, which is going to be higher than your interest rate in the saving accounts, or even much better than the you are going to invest into a bond or even in a stock market today, right? So these are the new source of funding sources that you're going to have in the future. So for a lot of new business that you have today, of course you need to think about the funding sources, but in the future there will be a lot more varieties of crowdfunding sources that you can do. So this is going to be a good thing for the new business in the new generation. And the last one that is also considered as a key factors when you do the business, right, is a trap between focus or diversity, right? Over the last 20, 30 years, when people talk about doing business, a lot of people saying that you have to be very focused, right? I'm sure that when you study in ABAC, right, you read any textbook, any marketing books, right, people are going to tell you that your strategy has to be very focused. You need to focus on doing 1 or 2 things rather than doing 10 things, right? So that your business will be successful. It's not wrong. It's right in the past. But in this new generation of the business, you need to really consider twice. Because if you're too focused on something, especially something that is interrelated, so if you focus on doing a few things, 2 or 3 things, and these 3 things are all interrelated, and once you get hit by COVID-19 situation, it's a domino effect. So everything goes down. So you don't have a bigger span enough to diversify your business. So when we are talking about the new business in this era, people are talking about diversification or diversity. So you need to wedge between focus and diversity, right? You cannot be too extremely focused and you cannot be too diversified so that you lose all the focus. So there is a right balance of the business focus and diversification that you need to weigh. Whatever business you're going to do, whether your own family business in the future, your own startup business, or you go to be a professional management in the company or in any business entities, you need to do a right balance between focus and diversification, right? Because it's going to help you to manage the business risks. It's going to help you to manage the crisis in the future. But of course, you need to be able to strategically thinking about what kind of strategy you need to be. For example, in JWD Group, right? We used to be very focused. We focus on doing a few things. We focus on doing automotive. We focus on doing chemical. We focus on doing the food and beverage or the cold chain business. But right now, we try to spread over our risks, right? Because automotive, as long as Thailand market is not going to produce more than 2 million cars, the market is not going to grow, right? So you're gonna not be able to grow your business. So you need to start diversification, right? You need to start diversify different layer of your business. So that's why we need to do B2B, we need to do B2C, we need to do property business, we need to do logistic infrastructure and all those things. But within that diversification of our business, we know what would be a few focus that we want to drive our business. For example, the existing business that we don't think is going to grow significantly, we just need to make sure that we remain the market share, and then we start driving the cost so that we can be a cost leadership player in those sectors. But for the sector like B2C or the property business, where it's going to grow with the online business, the consumer lifestyle, and everything, we need to start focusing on coming up or diversify the new ideas so that we can go to the new market trends and everything. So it's a balance of having a diversification business plan with a focused strategy, so that you'll be able to take a right balance to sustain your business in a longer term, right? Similar thing as one of the brand that most of the people know, Thao Gan Noi, right? In the past, people know that they basically seaweed, right, as a snack. But right now, you can see that they already step into different other sectors. They have food and beverage. They have drinks from Taiwan. They also invest into the food manufacturing factory in the US. They also start investing into certain number of upstream supply chain for the seaweed in China, in Canada, and all those things. So everyone start shifting from a focus strategy into a diversification, but still under that diversification plan, that is the underlying focus strategy that they want to focus. So this is from the marketing perspective, is some sort of the factor or mechanism that is going to help you to do the business successful. So all these 7 things are the good example of the mechanism that I would like to make sure that everyone fully understand what does it mean, what kind of example, what kind of the expertise in the market that has been practicing that kind of mechanism. And those are the business where they are very successful today, right? A lot of people has been talking about, a lot of business has been a case study for many industry, for many people, so that we can really understand how they can transform their business through digital transformation, right? So that you start maintaining the existing business to grow at a certain layers, but you also be able to manage the new business, the new trends, the new S-curve business in the future to grow much more faster, right? In order to sustain the business in a longer term. So this is the overall factors that I think is important for everyone to understand, to truly incorporate into your study, and try to think about some of the things that can be applicable into your passion in the future. Because I'm sure that everyone here, once you graduate from ABAC, many of you would like to have your own business. Many of you have a passion to do this. Some of you might go to study abroad. Some of you might enter into professional career with a big corporate, whatever. So these are going to be some of the factors that you can apply into your future career, and I'm sure that it's going to be successful for all of you. So that's all for what I would like to deliver and share to all of you today. So I would be a good time to open the floor for any questions that may have.
Okay, ขอบคุณครับคุณซีครับ
So we are now close to the end of seminar. We will have allowed 10 to 20 minutes to ask the questions to the guest speaker. If you would like to ask, or if you have any questions, please click the raise your hands up and turn on your microphone after I call your name, please. I saw Miss Megumi. Please kindly turn on your microphone, please.
Yes.
Yes, please.
I have one question. Do you think the acceleration to the business transformation driven by the COVID-19 have a good impact to your company or not?
Yeah, I think for my business, right, there are 2 parts of the impact. One part is a negative impact. For example, we have a great impact on the automotive logistic industry, right, where our business is completely gone, for a certain period of time, right? But on the other side, we have some of the sector that has been growing more than 300% over the last 1 year. For example, the food business, the cold chain business, the temperature control business, those are growing, 3 times, right? We have the freight forwardings, where we have got a good impact from the higher or the rising of the freight or the ocean freight, especially from Asia to the US to Europe. It's already lighting up like 4 times, 5 times. So in all, we can manage to still grow our business around 12 to 15% over the last 2 years. So I think for my business, I would say in overall, it's good for our business, but it's not good because we are just only stay still. It's good because we have designed our team and our organization to adjust the business model, right? To change the way we work, to change the culture and the attitude of the business. So that's why we can manage to grow our business over the last 2 years.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
โอเคครับ next Miss วรดาทองสิริครับ
Yes, I have one question. According to the fintech topic, you
Yeah.
said in the future Bitcoin might be used to buy the things in daily life. And my question is that what about the elder people or someone who like don't know about Bitcoin or about digital money? How can they survive in the future?
Well, that's a good question. I think if you compare Bitcoin, let's say with other mobile app today, right? I'm sure that you start seeing a lot of old generation people. You start seeing your parents, praying or spending a lot more time in your mobile phone, right? My parent, always online, right? So I think to me, I would put this way. I don't think that Bitcoin or fintech is going to be 100% substitute what we have today. Okay, it's going to come as one of the option or one of the core option of the economy in the future. But the cash or the digital money is still there, right? But at the same time, based on my own experience with a lot of different generation, I feel that people will learn to adapt and change finally, right? So I don't think that some people might not be willing to learn and change, right? But I think that would be minority. Majority of people, and because of the nature of people, right? The human people learns to survive. That is our instinct. So what I believe in this instinct is that majority of people will learn and adjust in order to survive, right? So I still think that people who is, let's say, more than 60 years old, your parents, my parents, right? Most of them will still learn and be able to do that one in the future. It's going to be hard from the beginning, but once you get to know it, once you learn it, it's going to be fast, right? So I'm not worried about that. So that's my own thought, that it's going to be a right balance, and the nature is going to balance it out, right, based on the nature of the people. So that's why I think that Bitcoin is going to be the new way of digital money for us, but it's not going to completely substitute the old way of money or the old way of cash. Yeah.
Okay, thank you ค่ะ
ครับ next person ครับคุณชยานิตครับ
I have one question about the JWD. As I know, JWD, there are 4 main core business, and logistics is also still the main business that generate the revenue. And I want to ask you, do you think is the logistics is still the main that can generate the revenue for the company, or other core business?
Yeah, good question. Well, like I mentioned to you, we diversify the business to be 4 main business, but our core focus is still on the first core business, which is logistics and supply chain, right? So the B2B logistics, B2C infrastructure, and overseas. So those we already plan to be around 60 to 70% of our main business. Then another 3 core business might be only 30 to 40% of the business when we are talking about another 5 to 10 years time from now, right? So that's why what I try to encourage you is that we need to think about diversification at the same time of focus strategy. So we need to diversify in order to diversify the risks and be able to adjust to the economies in the future. But at the same time, we need to have a core business that will be able to capitalize and grow in the long-term term. So whatever we do for the rest of the diversified business, we do in order to support the core business. But at the same time, those business also have their own way to grow. So if we have the impact on those business, it's not going to be 100% impact in our core business. So this is how we manage our business as well as manage our risks.
Thank you for your answer.
next person ครับคุณศาสวัฒน์ครับ sorry if I wrong pronounce ครับ
So my question is about the warehouse.
Yep.
You mentioned that JWD shift their manual warehouse to become a robotic warehouse.
Yep.
That means you have to discharge a lot of workers. So my question is that how the big company like this deal with the problem like this, and are there any complaints to the company about laying off a lot of employees? And is that the hard decision for the company?
Sure. Okay, first thing, we execute automation and robotics without laying off even one people. Okay, let me tell you the way we do. Just looking at if you want to spend money, right? Spending the money on robotics and automation is a huge money, right? Because you spend on a technology. So let's take it very simple. If you want to invest in something, you want to invest in something that you believe is going to grow in the future, right? The same thing with me. I spend automation and robotics in the sector that I believe is going to be grow, right? So with that concept, it means that I'm not replacing, right, the automotives together with the people, meaning that we invest, robotics and then we find all the people. No. So what we did is that we built the new warehouse, right, and the new cold storage that we built, we start implementing robotics, right? So that means once we start building new warehouse year on year, I almost have new cold storage warehouse every year. And then the technology of the automation and robotic is more advanced every year, right? So I invest into this sector with a new location, a new warehouse. So for the old and existing warehouse, we still keep some people and we transfer the people to the new location, right? So right now, let's say comparing to existing and new warehouse. In existing warehouse, which has no automation, right? Let's say within 10,000 square meter warehouse, I have to use about 40 to 50 people running this warehouse. In the new warehouse where I fully implement automation, I use 7 people to control the automation. So once we start building a new warehouse, we start bring those people into the new warehouse, reskill them, train them so that they know how to control the automation, how to control the robotics. Because the technology, the automation still needs someone to control, right? So you need a controller, but you don't need an operator. So you upskill, you reskill, and then you train people so that they will be able to move into your new locations. So my answer to you is that to invest in the technology, we don't want to leave the people. We want people to go together with the automation. So in order to do that, we need to invest into the business where we have a belief that the market is growing, and we have to invest every single year, right? So that's how we're gonna manage our business, and that's why we don't lose any people while we are implementing the robotic and automation at all.
Thank you very much ครับ
ครับ next is คุณกรวีครับ
Yeah. Currently, in your point of view, what you think that this could be the most interesting new industry that should we invest in?
Okay, what I'm personally interested in, and also as a common interest for the company as well, is basically the energy saving industry. So people are talking about EV, right? Not just only on the passenger car, but also in the containers or the commodity truckings, right? So this would be something that I myself put as a key strategy for JWD Group in the next 5 years. So we're gonna spend a lot of capital in the EV R&D, right? So meaning that in the future, we should have our truck, which is the electronic vehicle. So it's no driver, right? And it can be self-drive, right? So we try to put some of our capital expenditure on the R&D budget so that we can start testing the EV, and then we try to work and collaborate into a partnership with PTT Group, with some of the Chinese automotive company from China, so that we can start embracing that kind of EV technology into our group. And in the future, we hope to have around 20 to 25% of our fleet to be an EV fleet. So that is going to help in terms of the efficiency of the cost optimization, productivities, as well as environmental friendly in terms of the carbon emission, those kind of things. So this is basically the industry that I want to share you that it could be potential interest for everyone in the next 5 years time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next คุณเพชรลดาครับ
Hello ค่ะ
ครับ
Yes, as digital technology became to be an important role in many businesses and industry around the world, my question is, do you think that the traditional business will still exist in the future or not? Yes.
I think the traditional business is still there, but what's gonna change is basically the platform of the business gonna be changed, right? Let me take some examples so that it can be clear to all of you, right? In the normal trade, you're talking about buyer and seller, right? And if you learn all the marketing textbooks, right, then you have distributor, you have traders, you have distribution channel, whatever that is, standing between buyer and seller, right? But with the digital transformation today, you can imagine you can buy everything online. So that means as a consumer, you should be able to buy direct to the factory, right? So if you can buy direct to the factory, you don't need the middleman. You don't need distributor. You don't need trading company, right? Or just imagine if you go to Lazada today, right? And you buy whatever electronic stuff in Lazada, in Shopee, it's shipped from China, right? And it's shipped directly from the factory in China. It could take 7 days to deliver to your house, right? So it's already bypassed the middleman, except the online marketplace that's become the middleman today. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in the future, in many industries, the distributor, the middleman, the trading companies will be gone, right? Because the transaction can be done directly between manufacturer and the buyers, right? And as long as the manufacturer can invest into the online platform, can invest into the technology, they can go directly to consumer. What they just need to do is that they need to control their data, because what the trading company and what the distributor has as a benefit comparing to the factory is they have the information of the consumer, right? So what the factory need in the future is they need the access to the consumer database so that they will be able to design an online platform that can go straight forward to the consumer or to the end of consumer. So that's gonna really happen in the future, and you already start seeing a lot of business, a lot of trading company or distribution in certain number of business or industry has already been removed out of the cycle.
All right, thank you so much ค่ะ
Yeah.
ครับ next person ครับ Mr. Lulin ครับ
Yes, hello, Mr. Tanti. My question is that we know that the transform industries and start a new business, it takes a lot of money, and you mentioned that the crowdfunding or loan from the bank as a way to raise the monies, but usually it's often too slow. But you can completely demand the direction of your business. And another way is that is to accept investment from the international capitals, but they are more focused on the profits. They will demand that you just copy exciting business models, not innovate. For example, the Lazada accepted Alibaba's investment, but was also controlled in its directions. Perhaps Lazada could invent new business models, but now it is only a follower in the international markets. So which way do you think is better for the Thailand's new industries?
Well, I think this one is a bit tricky question because it's depending on the what industry or what sector, right? If you're talking about the normal sectors, right, I think the weakness of Thailand market is that we only have 60 to 70 million populations, right? So let's look at the startup in Thailand market today. Apart from Flash, right? Apart from BitCup, right? We have only 2 unicorn startup if you just only count, Flash and BitCup, right? But if you look at our neighboring country, right? Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, they have more than 10, right? So I think the first thing is 2 things that is going to make, the business, especially the startup business in Thailand, not going well and need to raise fund a lot. The first thing is about the populated market in Thailand is so small, right? The second thing is that most of the startup founder in Thailand, right? They basically have a lot of fluffy ideas, but when it comes to execution, most of them fail. So they have idea, but they don't know how to execute, or they don't know how to execute successfully, right? In order to make their business successful and in order to make their business more interesting for a foreign investor to invest, right? So that's why you will see just a few business in Thailand, that is successfully invested by the foreign investor, and many of I think at least what I don't see today, I don't see any startup company that become listed company in the future so far, right? Except Flash and BitCup. So for the remaining, there are so many what we call a private equity company that investing into the new startup company. There are so many crowdfunding that is investing into those startup company, but the future of those businesses are not quite bright. So there are so many risks comparing to the startup business in many other countries where the populated market is much scarier, is bigger, right? The people who are the founder of those business, they have more experience in driving the startup business. And the way that they can be successful, one of a very simple comparison that I basically observe everyone is that most of the people in neighboring country who are the successful startup founder, they used to work in other business before, right? So they have the experience. They used to work in a corporate company before. They used to work in many other business before. They know how to run business, and then they do their startup. But most of the startup company in Thailand is a fresh gap. You have passion, but you don't have experience. So you have a lot of ideas, but you don't know how to execute successfully because you have no experience. You don't know how to manage organization. You don't know how to manage market. So this is one of the key difference between a successful startup founder and an unsuccessful founders, which I think is a good comparison. I think it's a fair comparison if you want to compare, different founders in different countries that have been successful in the startup business. So I think that is going to be how it's going to attract the foreign investor in the future, and that's why I'm thinking that Thailand even now, right, is still inferior comparing to the rest of neighboring country, even in Malaysia, Vietnam, or Indonesia. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
The last people นะครับ Miss Mimi Tun ครับ
Oh yeah, so my question is about currently live streaming industry in China has been influenced the Chinese customers so much. So do you think Thailand will also influenced by this industry or this way of selling the goods, and how is it going to affect the physical stores purchasing way?
Okay, definitely it's going to replace like what I said before, right? It's going to change the way people sell, the way people buy, right? But what I think is much worry about Thailand market is 2 things. One is that the buyers, right, need to be more educated in what they want to buy, right? Because right now it becomes that the seller are more creative, right? A lot of live streaming, like what you said, a lot of live coaching, live commerce, right? So people are talking about very similar things, right? It just depends on whether who can sell the best, right? And it's become the fact that the buyer should have more ability, right, to judge the transactions wisely. So you need to be more educated. You need to really understand that kind of things. Secondly, what is going to be changed and most important is basically it's going to change the market footprint, right? So you have the direct access to the manufacturer. You have the direct access to the seller, right? So everything has to be bypassed, right? Then the problem is that what about the quality of the transactions? Because previously, when you have a corporate transaction or corporate seller and buyers, right? Everyone have their own ways, but at least everyone have a standard. So you can believe in the product of this seller. You can believe in the quality of this seller. But once you start removing everything, right? The quality, the belief, the confidence in the products is getting less and less, right? So I think this is something that it has to be replaced by a certain number of study educations further in the future, because the whole footprint is completely changed now. So I think this is something that everyone has to be more educated. Everyone has to be wise enough to make whatever selling and buying transaction that you can have in the future, because the seller is become much clever and clever. So the buyer should be more clever than them, right?
Thank you
ครับsorry for the Mr. Seyu นะครับit's the land out of the time นะครับ Thank you for all questions and precious answer for our guest speaker. We are here reached to the end of our today's seminar. I would like to thank you คุณธเนศ Piliyotinkul in advance for coming to be our special guest speaker today and giving a very thought-provoking and insightful presentation. Indeed, it would be very beneficial for us to apply them in the future ครับ
Thank you very much, everyone. Hope you're gonna have a good graduation next year.
And before we officially end our today's seminar, I would like to briefly introduce your honor sessions. We will have Dr. Permsin Yongwong Phaiboon from MD Permsin Steelwork PLC to be our guest speaker in the topic of the Complete Guide to Drop Shipping Business Startup. And this session has to be in the 8 December and 22 December and have some workshop from Dr. Permsin ครับ If you are interested, please don't hesitate to join us in the seminar in marketing next Wednesday at 2 to 4 p.m. ครับ Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this online seminar session informative, useful, and could be applied into practical use for your guys. Thank you again for spending time with us today. I would like to officially end and we will close this meeting room soon. Thank you ครับ
ครับขอบคุณครับขอบคุณครับ